Hello, 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 everyone, and welcome back to the show. My name is Kat Moulton, and you are tuning in to Creatrix TV, a place where we help women become a powerful creatrix living in the matrix. Because the world needs women who are fully awake, dangerously alive, and unified in heart and purpose. And speaking of women, happy International Women's Day, everyone. This show is part of the Win-Win Women Network, a global movement to support women in all areas of their life. My name is Kat Moulton. I'm an intuitive life strategist and coach, and I support purpose-driven individuals, especially women, remember who they really are and take their life or business to the next level. And my guests are here to help you do that as well. And I'm so excited about today's guest, Paige Frisone. She is an expert in the subconscious mind. Have you ever wondered what's been holding you back from achieving all your goals that you've set for yourself? Or have you tried all the things, all the products, but find that there's something missing? Paige is going to fill us in on that today a little bit. Paige Frisone is a subconscious health practitioner. She's a published writer, poet, and dynamic speaker stationed in Boulder, Colorado. She's the founder and owner of her integrative practice, Realm Wellness LLC, where she aids clients around the globe in processing trauma and disease on subconscious and therefore sustainable levels. Her work is fueled by losing a decade of her life to anorexia, severe depression, anxiety, self-harm, various traumas, and ineffective prescription models. Paige, welcome to the show. I'm really honored that you're here today.
Oh, thank you so much. I so appreciate you having me on, and happy International Women's Day to you. This was so divine just to be able to connect today.
I know, wasn't it? I didn't have it planned that this was the day. When I was prepping for the show, I realized that. So that is awesome. Why don't we start by, because we only have about a half an hour, of you telling our viewers a little bit about your background and what got you into this work?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I have a really wild history of being immersed in Western medicine care. So I had chronic night terrors when I was a kid, and that was something that just happened every single night. Woke up screaming, and then by daytime had no recollection of what had happened the night before. So I was hooked up to machines in my brain, going to hospitals, people trying to figure out what was wrong with me. And I was in therapy really young as a result, and they're asking me topical questions like, how was your day, and how was school, and how was home, and trying to track whatever was the root cause of these chronic night terrors. And so I was very familiar with therapy. I was very familiar with the Western world. It was a huge question mark in my life of like, what's responsible for this trauma? And it wasn't until my aunt actually told my mom, like, hey, let's try something different. Let's go to like this white light healer. Let's tap into her energy field. Let's figure out some other method of healing. And so I was so grateful for that exposure because it actually introduced me very young to a whole other world of modalities. And so that honestly is what I attribute the ceasing of the chronic night terrors too, was this white light healing that happened when I was a kid. So as a result of the night terrors, as well as like a lot of traumas in my life, I developed all of these diagnoses and disorders that you had named already. And in school, I was a huge seeker. So as a result of having anorexia, I had to drop out of my school in the Midwest. I came to Colorado, I had treatment here, and I just changed by being in this environment. So I was back and forth in and out of school, relapsing a lot, really not sustaining recovery, not able to be stable. And I received so many bouts of intensive care. And I'm so grateful for that. But I also firsthand experienced the limitations of what those models looked like. Typically, when you're in a treatment center for this type of disorder, disease, the primary care teams that you have are your PCP, you have a nutritionist or a dietitian, you have your primary therapist, and you have like somebody doing medication management, so your psychiatrist. And there was nothing else as far as anybody addressing the root cause origin. So in conjunction with treatment, I was at this Buddhist inspired university, and I'm studying all these traditional Chinese Eastern methods of care. And so I had studied Ayurveda and the 5-element theory and botanical medicine and all of these other experiences of medicine that made me question, like, why am I only going for Western? Why am I only trained to learn how to pop pills? And so it expanded my worldview tenfold. And co-occurringly, my mom had actually gotten certified in what I'm practicing right now, this integrative method. And so I landed somewhere in the middle. I was like, you know what? I know that there's value for Western medicine, and I know there's a time and place for it, but let's not necessarily use that as our default mechanism. Let's take what it's supposed to do. Let's bring in these other ancient traditions that have been around for tens and thousands of years, and let's actually help people get to the root cause of their training. Of their trauma. So it's been this back and forth of having to go extreme to extreme to really toggle back to center.
I can appreciate that you said that. And, that extreme to extreme, I've been there as well, and for a time, like, I threw out all of Western medicine because it was so inefficient for a lot of things and limiting. However, there's a time and a place. And so what I appreciate about your work is that it's integrative. It's both. You bring in the Eastern philosophies, the white light. I mean, what you shared about, being introduced to that, the white light at a young age, that's powerful. And that's, people are like, oh, that's too woo-woo, that doesn't work. But this integrative approach, I have found very effective for myself and others. And what the big thing that comes to mind that stands out is the root cause. Like, you talk about getting to the root cause. And I think that for me has been some of the limiting effect of Western medicine, where it's just like, treat the acute, let's put a Band-Aid on it, deal with the symptoms. And there's a time and a place for that. But the root cause is how we create lasting change, right? My understanding. Can you talk a little bit more about, you said that your mother did this work first and you're doing it too, this integrative root cause approach. Can you tell us about that?
Totally. Yeah. So in the thick of my struggle and not being able to really withstand wellness, I was in survival for most of my life. And at the time I was a very curious learner. So even though I was in the depths of my own isolation and self-inflicted, maladaptive stress reactions, I still was wanting to learn about life. I had this existential angst. I wanted to be of service, and I felt like I couldn't get there because I just wanted to get out of my own way. So I was constantly chasing my own tail. And at this time, when I was first shipped on a plane off to treatment here in Denver, my mom took that extremely hard, of course. And there's a severe link between specifically anorexia and the mother-daughter relationship. And so there was this impact of my unhealth and my mom reacting to that, of course, as any mother would. And so she was kind of down for the count for a while, and she accidentally walked into the wrong office and found the founder of this system that we practice, and was like, hey, is this my pediatrician or my whatever orthodontist or wherever she was going? And he's like, no, but welcome to my center. Let's have a talk, because she had a boot on her foot. She was struggling with chronic pain.
Oh, wow.
And so she found him, just happenstance, which we know is not really, it's not really coincidence at all. And right. And she ends up getting certified in this integrative technique. It's called the Lifeline technique. And she had tried so desperately at that time, when I was in acute care, of wanting me to receive the benefits of this work, because once you know what you know, you can't unknow it. And so she wanted to rope me in, and I was like, not ready for that. I had no idea what she was talking about. And I was just on my own healing timeline. I was on my own journey. So as a result of my personal, professional, and academic studies in this therapy-based Western world, it required that I did my own work to come back to this practice that mom had really tried to get me on. And I had seen, the founder for a couple sessions here and there. They were super powerful, but I wasn't ready. I just was like, I didn't know how to receive what was happening. I didn't know what it looked like to be on the other side of unhealth. I was like, what does it mean to live in this powerful way? Reminds me of Marianne Williamson's quote, right? Like, our deepest fear is not that we're inadequate, it's that we're powerful beyond measure. And I was seeing myself shift even in these sessions that I had once in a blue moon. And I just didn't know what to do with it. And so it required that I really tried everything under the sun and study individual modalities like EMDR and shamanism and color therapy and chakra alignment and holographic repatterning and, on and on and on until I came to a place where I was like, you know what? Why not practice something that A, has not only helped me,
Mhm.
but B, I know will help other people, and C, does all of these things in one. So there's 14 different modalities from Eastern and Western medicine integrated in this system. And I always tell people, it's not that we're doing a little bit of everything of those things. We're just doing all of those things in a different way to
Right.
communicate with the subconscious so that we can literally get to the root cause of whatever it is that's triggering present day stress.
So I really appreciate that. And I didn't realize that you studied some of those modalities individually, but do you intuitively draw on one of those modalities within this? Or is it a certain protocol that you use?
Yeah, so there's a certain framework, like we'll do 16 steps every single session, which involves all of these modalities in one. And so it's a really expedited way, it's a really intricate way to get to what memory is responsible for signaling the body into chronic symptomatology or signaling our thought patterns or signaling our emotions and our behaviors. And so we really lean on muscle reflex testing or applied kinesiology to communicate with the subconscious mind, which we can do remotely, which is super cool. I love showing people how that works. And because of the muscle reflex test, that is kind of like our spiritual biofeedback system. That's our internal mechanism that you would find in a chiropractic office or something like that. And that helps us journey into where the client needs to go. So no two sessions are the same. And then from there, there's a lot of intuition that comes up too. If we need to not do a part that usually we do and we need to call in something else, we do that as well. So it's a really beautiful, holistic way of healing based on whatever the client's coming in with that day.
That's cool. I like that. I love that you use the applied kinesiology. I use that too in some of my work. I have a question then about the root cause.
Yeah.
So when we're using the subconscious mind to get to the root cause of an individual, is the root cause always within that person, or can it be in a ancestral place in the genetic line, or even in another lifetime, if you will, if that's not a little too out there for our viewers? Does that come up in your work at all? Either of
Oh,
those?
yeah. Yeah. It's a great question. This comes up every single session. So it's client dependent, right? Like I'm not going to journey with clients into past lives unless they're open to the concept of what that means. If they're not open to the concept of that, then we do journey into generational patterns. So when we're locating like, hey, there's been this emotional environment that part of you remembers. You don't have to consciously remember it because I'm dialoguing with that subconscious part of the brain, which is 95%. But regardless of what you don't remember, the subconscious mind does. And that's what's responsible for helping us locate this memory. So a lot of the time, I find that memories in present lifetime that come up are anywhere from the time of conception to age 7, because that's when our brains are wet cement developmentally. We know this. Sometimes it'll be later in our life as well, but we find the concepts of original occurrence. So what original occurrence happened where your body went into survival, you took a snapshot memory, and you were in an emotionally reactive or stressful place. If it's not in this lifetime, yes, we journey into AD or BC. We find out what type of body you were in, how old you were at that time, what type of emotional environment were you in that you were not able to process, and how that memory that was unprocessed has carried into present lifetime and manifested as present day symptomatology or emotions or thoughts, everything that I named before. If it's not a past life, we also have generational influences. So we have mom and dad's side, and we can locate how many generations back on mom or dad's side was there an inherited imbalance. And it's
Mhm.
nobody's fault because it was nobody's choice. And so once we can locate, like, hey, there were 4 generations back on mom's side of rage and vengeful that you have subconsciously inherited in your DNA that you are ready to heal and upgrade right now. And when we can upgrade that on an epigenetic level, we can shift the cellular expression of our body. We do not carry that patterning into future generations. And all we do to shift it is observe it. I will paint the picture as the guide based on what the muscle reflex test is saying, but it's up to the client to make that connection. And incredibly, they can make it every single time.
That's awesome that people make that connection. So what I'm hearing is that you bring the awareness to the person and they observe it. They don't have to actually do a lot of other things, but in that observation of it, it unlocks it and the person will begin to shift, right?
Absolutely. And that's where some more of like the energetics come into it as well, because when we're observing something with our intentional energy and our attentional energy, we can shift it naturally. And so it really is about that like inner attunement or that interoceptive inquiry, where once we're observing something, we can shift it, and we can't shift anything if we don't know what we're observing. So it's kind of twofold in that way. But once we bring that invisible to the visible realm, whatever we didn't have access to that we now have access to, it starts to naturally shift, which is pretty awesome.
What if someone doesn't believe in that? Will it still work? Can they still shift, or do they have to believe in it?
Yeah, it's a great question. So this is kind of a complex question, just in that so much of the work that we do together is about reprogramming belief systems, because
Okay.
beliefs are thoughts that we keep thinking. Of course, they're conditioned, and limiting beliefs are things that we essentially rewire on a sensory level. So we will upgrade the eyes, ears, nose, mouth, and sense of touch that have been perceiving life in a reactive way.
Mhm.
So that said, it's not my job to ever tell somebody what they should or shouldn't believe. And if they don't believe it, I'm going to meet them where they are. I do have prereqs for like working with me, which is like that you're willing to change, right? And that you're open to it. Like that's it. And if you don't believe that you can heal, you don't have to know that you can heal right now. We'll get there. But if you don't believe that you can heal, I don't know how much wiggle room we're going to have together. I really need and want this to be a cooperative experience. I want the clients to participate and show up for themselves, even if they have a part of them that's like, I don't know if I can do this. And so I usually bring in some parts work at that time if there's some lack of belief or some resistance or something blocking them. And I help them diffuse from that enmeshed identity so that we can treat that part with complete validity and honoring, and work to befriend it and see if there's any workability on the other side. If they don't believe in the generational inheritance and they don't believe in the past lives, we can still work with this lifetime. And if they don't believe in that, then I don't know where we would quite go from there. But I always say, even if you don't know what you believe right now, have an experience if you're willing, if you really want to change, if you really want to heal, if you've tried everything under the sun, like you're here for a reason. So give yourself the grace of having your own personalized experience, having your own testimony, and we'll go from there. And people don't have to know what we do in session for it to have an effect. Like we're doing deep subconscious work. And so people who are really irrational or analytical are going to try and talk themselves out of that experience or try and figure it out in a really linear way. And the goal and the aim is really to have an embodied experience where you're in your holistic integrated self, and you can start tracking micro and macro shifts. Like, wow, I came in with a 6 out of 10 headache and that's like a 2 right now. Or like, whoa, my stomach was like so in pain before seeing you, and like I feel completely calm right now. So those types of shifts are usually accessible to whatever client ends up coming in my door.
Okay, no, that's awesome. So if a client comes in your door, and the goal, like the title of this is to create, an optimal life, are they coming in to work on multiple things or one thing, or is that just client specific as well?
It's client specific, but it's usually multiple things. Like we track what is the physical body expressing. So what are the symptoms that you're feeling that you'd love to shift if you could? And then we go into the emotional life of like, hey, tune into work and home and partner and kids and internal landscape of self-concept. Like, let's go for all these things. Let's extract the emotions that it causes you to feel when you're connecting to the stress of your life. So we make that mind-body connection, and then we journey into like what the mind is resisting, that the mind is ready to heal, what the body's resisting, that the body's ready to heal. And then we start upgrading the cellular expression through these memories that have been unprocessed that are ready to come to the surface. And so it's kind of like, I said this to a client yesterday, I was like, this is kind of like a vacuum cleaner session where everything that's residual from the last time that we've connected is just ready to have a big shift. And sometimes people will come in with something acute. They're struggling with addiction of some kind, whether it's substance or just their relationship to a certain habit. So it really depends, but I find that the more we work together, the more chameleonic it becomes, just based on where they are in the moment.
Okay, I love that word, chameleonic. Because it's a process, it's a shifting, it's like an unraveling. And it's with the getting to the root, it's like peeling back the layers, right? And, especially if someone just starts with this present lifetime, and like you said, if they don't believe in the other things, if they start here, sometimes do they either become more open, or do you find in the work that it is deeper than this lifetime? And sometimes we open to that, and just
Yeah. So much of this work is about raising consciousness, raising vibration. And even if those words don't mean anything to somebody, even if they're like, I don't know what that means, it's still happening. And so for those types of clients, I like to go more science-based. And I'm like, hey, let's talk about emotions as energy in motion, as electrical charges in the neuronal pathways of our body. Like, let's get granular about the biochemistry, the physiology, the ways in which we have elements and organs and glands and pathogens. Like, we can go straight for it and keep it really practical for that type of person. Other people who do start raising their vibration, because there's some stuff in this that the potentially like left brain person might perceive to be weird, right? Because there are things that we do that like maybe are unconventional, and I'm all for it, and they're there for a reason, right? If they give themselves the ability to just be with their experience and to try it, and remember, they're coming in for a reason because they've tried everything and they need to heal, right? So those people are usually more willing to try something different. Once they start raising their vibration in a sustainable way, because this work sustains itself, we can never undo what we do. I don't want clients to come back to me in a dependent way. I want them to really just go after their healing until they know that it sticks. They do have more questions and more curiosities and like spiritual leans where they're like, what happens after we die? Or I have clients asking me so many spiritual questions right now, so many existential things of like, okay, so what does it mean to have a past life memory? What does it mean if a past life comes up and I was in 554 AD as a 7-year young male and I couldn't express myself and my throat was shut down? What does that mean? Right. And it's really delicate because it's not for me to tell somebody else what's going on in their DNA. And I really work to emphasize, I need all parts of everyone to be in consent. I need the conscious mind to be in consent. I need the subconscious mind to be in consent. I need the person who's showing up in session to be in consent. I need that 7-year young male that's coming up to be in consent. So there's a lot of delicacies here. But I really just reorient them back to their wisdom. And I'm like, you know what? Whatever you say is valid. And I want you to take a moment and tune into what 554 AD must have been like for you as a 7-year young male in an environment of hatred and self-loathing and feeling invisible and guilt and shame. I want you to feel that right now. And whatever symbols and colors and environments you get, it might be a lot, it might be a little, it's perfect. I had somebody yesterday just was like, I just see a boat. And I'm like, cool, be with that boat, right? And then you might start asking them guiding questions from there, and it's their information to gather. And so once they gather that information, I help them track like that 554 AD part has been holding on and holding on and holding on until present day 2023, because you're now ready to heal. And once we create that container of awareness of like, we don't have to have all the answers for healing to happen, it starts to happen.
Okay. So then when the healing starts to happen, when someone's had that awareness and these noticings in their body, because I think sometimes we have these noticings naturally, but we don't know what they are or how to define them. And depending on the support or the people or the culture that we're in, we might be told like we're crazy or it's not real and invalidated. So I love how you validate people regardless of what shows up, because it is unique to the individual. How does someone move forward after the session? And if these things have come up, this the 7-year-old boy and that you were discussing in AD, how does somebody integrate that fully? Is it just the awareness and letting it be? Is there a tip or technique that you can give?
Yeah. So after we locate the memory of
Okay.
who is coming to the surface, what part needs our attention, that part is responsible for signaling that present day physical symptom and emotional stress. We go through an intricate process of harmonizing that cellular memory, because once it comes up and out, someone might have a lot of reactivity to that. There might be a lot of emotional charge, right? There might be a lot of discomfort in the body, nausea, dizziness. Like some people get a lot of physical, visceral stuff. So
Mhm.
we locate after the memory comes up what else was going on at that time that was imbalanced that you're ready to balance now. Is it emotional imbalance, biochemical, structural, or spiritual? And what was fueling that imbalance? Is it the mind? Is it the heart? Is it the willpower? What kept you alive at that time? What was the gift of protection? Like, what was the strange reflex that kept you on the planet at 554 AD when you had a broken heart, right? When you had a disconnected mind, like what helped you? And then we'll go through an intricate process of like locating, now that you've really unveiled or liberated this part of you that you didn't have access to a few moments ago, where and in what way are you ready to create sustainable change in your body? So we activate certain meridians or expression channels that you might find in Ayurvedic medicine. And we
Mhm.
use the 5 element theory to locate, like, where is there chi now flowing in the system that wasn't flowing before? Is it a Shen cycle, a Ko cycle, a Luo cycle? You don't have to know what any of this means, but it's going to figure out where certain energy is now flowing. And then we'll locate, like, where is this 7-year young boy still expressing itself in your present life? Is it through behavior? Is it through the structural body? Is it through the biochemistry? And we locate the emotions that are still running the show so that we can deactivate the activation, or we can diffuse the trigger. And then last but not least, we'll find what's the holding pattern. Why is that 7-year young boy from AD holding on in present day? Is it holding on in the mind, the body, or the spirit? And we'll run certain patterns based on what comes up. And then we do a beautiful integration process called just assembling, which you might hear in shamanism. So we assemble all the way up to the crown because we've been working through a lot of chakras and energies. And then we'll integrate, we'll walk and breathe in place just so that we can get left and right sides of the brain on board. And once we land, we're like, okay, let's pause here. Let's sit. Let's allow whatever's in transit to be in transit. Let's allow whatever's still to be still. I'll have them track how they're feeling at that time. We'll compare it to how they started. And then we'll take some action steps and we'll figure out which types of basics they need to tend to, whether it's their physical body, resting, food, water, mindset, owning their power. And I'll really allow the client to have intuition come through based on whatever they processed that day and whatever their experience was. So it's very granular, and it's just a beautiful journey every time.
I love how you said that about the beautiful journey, about the allowing people to kind of do their own process. It's not like a cookie cutter thing. Like there's structure and protocols and things that you will do, but you're letting it flow to really meet that person's individual needs, is what it sounds like, which is, and that's where the shift happens, right? When we can be witnessed and seen as an individual, and whatever patterns are going on within us and how we can release them. Because what you said about the chi, I mean, that's some of the work I do, is really helping people like release and unleash that life force energy. And it is about clearing, eliminating, letting go. But you're doing it at a very deep level, like letting go of things, old things that people aren't aware of before they come to you. Have people ever gotten like afraid at all, or unnerved, if you will, by things that have come up that weren't in their, like, especially if it wasn't in their lifetime? Does that throw people?
You know, it's brilliant when past lives come up. And by the way, like, they don't come up that often because it is dependent on whoever I'm working with's consciousness and the work that they've done. And there's a chronology in the subconscious. So once one memory comes up, it kind of makes way for others to come up. So we might ping pong, like 1 week it might be 9 years young, and then we'll go to 2 years young, and then we'll go to 12, and then we'll go to 3, so there's a chronology, because whatever's ready to come up that session is ready to come up based on whatever client comes in, whatever their resourcing is at that time, whatever they're ready to unveil. And they might not know what that is until we really get there. But for example, I had a past life moment, a memory come up with a client the other day, and she and I have never had a past life, and I've been seeing her for a year and a half or so, and she wildly enough, I didn't know this, went to the library recently, got a book on past lives and was just curious about it and hadn't even gotten through the first chapter, but it was her innate wisdom's curiosity, like her soul force that was kind of leading that trajectory of like, what else is out there? Like, what else do I need to know about life? And boom, then a past life shows up and she was able to start tracking connections based on what the book was saying and what we were going through. And it was really validating. So it just kind of depends. Like, I'm not here to put a square peg into a round hole. If somebody has shock that comes up as a result, which doesn't happen often, but if they have any type of reaction, we will start doing some parts work and like circle back to that memory. So we won't be in it too long. We're just going to titrate a little bit more and like dip our toes in and make sure all parts of us are on board with continuing the work that we're doing. And we pause where we need to pause and we go where we need to go and we make sure we have all the green lights. I think the funniest reaction I've ever gotten from somebody who maybe I saw just, like the first or second time that I saw them and they didn't really know what this was all about. They consider that I was a psychic, which was really cute, because we all have our psychic innate powers, but this is not that. This is the innate wisdom of the client coming through by way of the muscle reflex test and the subconscious mind. And I could not possibly have known anything about this person's life that came through. And there was no channeling involved. Like I'm an intuitive person and I work the ways that I do intuitively as well, but it was all them. And so I really like to revert the power back to the client.
I appreciate that and that distinction between the psychic part and the innate wisdom, because that is a lot of the work I focus on, is that innate wisdom of the body, like helping people remember. So thank you for that. And we're going to have to wrap in just a minute, but I have another question then. Past lives aside, I'm really interested in the ancestral work and the epigenetic work, right? From what you said earlier, when we release these blocks in the genetic line, can that help the future line as well? And can it help the future line that's already here? Like not just the unborn, that people, like my children, for example, if I dive deeper into this work, can that help the ripple effect of my children, whether they believe it or dive into it themselves?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a great question. Yes and yes, like hard yes and yes. And I get that question all the time because let's say I'm seeing somebody who's 40 years young and they have kids already. And, I'm like, okay, so we've unlocked and harmonized this expression from dad's line 3 generations back of withdrawal from communication. That's a huge upgrade in the cellular expression that you're not just healing on behalf of your physical self and the generations to come if you were to have more kids, but you're shifting your internal environment on a cellular level, which shifts your external environment on an energetic level as well. So when we heal ourselves, we heal everyone around us. And I'm not talking about not having others in consent, right? Like I'm talking about just when we raise our vibration, everyone's vibration around us naturally starts to shift. If they're serving us to be in our environment, they'll stick around. And if they're not, maybe they won't. So sometimes I see people's relationships start to change as well. If they have friends or, people around that just aren't serving them. And so, yeah, even if the kiddos aren't doing the work, they will start naturally acclimating to our internal environment. So even if we're not doing well, there's a way that impacts them subconsciously. And when we are doing well and we start healing, that does impact them subconsciously. And it also keeps people really connected to their ancestry, which is so beautiful. No matter if they knew their parents or if they didn't, or knew their grandparents or didn't, there's still that cordedness and that energy line that impacts us without us even knowing it.
I appreciate that. I had a healer tell me about a decade ago who does different work than you, but it taps in. She's like, when you heal, your children will heal. Like it's not about, in other words, the takeaway, it's not about trying to heal our kids, and not that we don't support them or do what we need, but when we focus on ourselves, like that's where the magic happens. It ripples out into our career, into our business, our work, our friendships, our family. That's what I'm hearing from you, right?
Yes.
Is that accurate? Right. So if people want to know more about this, because I could talk all day, I have a zillion questions that haven't come out. Where could they find you, Paige?
Totally. Yeah. So thank you for asking. So my website has a whole overview of everything that we've talked about today in a very abbreviated way. So my business's name is Inner Realm Wellness. And so my website is innerrealmwellness.life. And I'm also super active on social media, tons of free resources and content there. So my handle is at Inner Realm Wellness. Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok are all at Inner Realm Wellness. So you can find me there, send me a message, say hey, and yeah, there's tons of information there.
Okay, awesome. And I will have that in the notes, in the little show notes on the site. International Women's Day, just coincidentally, like we said, no coincidence, right? Synchronicity. You are in a summit called the Women's Thrive Summit. I know another friend of mine is in it. Can you give us the brief blurb and how people, or women especially, can find that if they want to be inspired or learn to thrive?
Absolutely. Yes. So there is an amazing summit going on March 20th to 24th, where every single day, all day, there's going to be amazing speakers talking about anything and everything from like conscious leadership in business to money management and empowerment to something like what I'm talking about is all things subconscious, how to heal subconscious programs to master your conscious life. There's going to be mompreneurs there. There's going to be all types of people. And so you can register for this. You can get a free ticket or you can upgrade for a paid ticket. If you get a VIP package ticket, no joke, you're going to unlock tens of thousands of dollars worth of freebies and discounts and promo offers. And so all of us women right now are holding each other in this collective energy of getting ready to wow you. And if you're in need of some shifts right now, if you need some support, if you need community, we have all those things in spades. So for me, if you would like to see the schedule and you'd like to kind of track who you want to visit that week, you can just go to womenthrive.club/Paige Frisone. So womenthrive.club/Paige Frisone. And that will take you to the whole labyrinth of every women speaker that you can see.
That's awesome. I can't wait. I'm already signed up, so I will be there. And I so appreciate your time today and your energy and your wisdom. I love learning about this. I know facets of it, but it's powerful work. So if someone has tried many things and they haven't worked, focusing on the subconscious mind might be a great step for them. So
Yes.
Awesome. So find Paige on her website, go to the Women's Thrive Summit, come back here next week, or go to creatrix.tv and catch the replay. If you missed it, catch the replay on Facebook Live and the replay to all the episodes. And we will see you next week. Bye-bye for now. And thank you for tuning in to Creatrix TV.